Hi guys, I'm Manu and welcome to another episode of Sweet Money. As for myself, I'm a CPA from Canada and the US. I've got a cool little accounting firm, better known as Shandel CPA. Today I have the pleasure of inviting a wonderful guest, Marta Andrade, who I've had the pleasure of knowing now for almost a couple of years. So Marta, I want to keep this as informal as possible. I want people to know who Marta is, so when they do call you, they'll be like, I know Marta, she's my friend, I saw her on YouTube, right? So that's my goal for today. And I guess in the spirit of getting to know you, Marta Andrade, what's the origins? Where do your seeds come from, I guess?
So I am from Madeira Island, which is the island where Ronaldo is from, the big soccer player. Most people know of Madeira because of the inference of soccer. And although I'm Canadian born, both my parents are from there, so those are my roots. I'm Portuguese.
Do you still have family in Portugal?
Yes, we have all our family there. I literally have one aunt and a couple of cousins here. Everyone else, all my extended family is still back there.
And do you keep in touch with them, or have you lost contact?
No, we do. We do keep in touch.
Distance is distance, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it's not a hop and a skip away. It's not a direct flight.
You got to plan 6 months ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a beautiful place, but again, it's not. Let's fly to Mexico, right?
Right.
So it's just off the coast of Morocco. To give you some geographical reference, and it's kind of closer to Africa than it is to everything else that is considered subtropical, which is the climate. The nickname is it's the Pearl of the Atlantic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And I assume you've been there.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think I've been there now 10 or 12 times, like a dozen times. Yeah, we went a lot when we were younger as a family.
10 or 12, okay.
And then as you grow older and you get to voice your... I don't want to go where you guys are going.
Right. I want to go Walt Disney.
I'm too big to be traveling with my parents. But luckily, we valued it enough that when we were bigger, we still went back a little bit.
Okay.
And now that I am married with my own family, my own children, we took them there last summer.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Because a friend of mine, ironically, he's a financial planner, but he's transitioning his career from financial planning to helping Canadians relocate to different countries.
Cool.
And he was telling me that Portugal is one of the hot spots because the weather is fantastic,
Yes.
The food is the wine, all that stuff, but also cost of living is lower. So a lot of
100%.
Canadians, because the taxes here and the inflation, a lot of Canadians who are now retiring, Portugal is becoming one of the hot spots.
Yes, and that's very true for the mainland in Portugal. So that's where it's become, you just hit the nail on the head. Even people like, I believe Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, they're going to buy property there right now.
Like Lisbon and all those places?
Lisbon, and in south of Lisbon near the Algarve, where it's all beaches and, just really Mediterranean life, right?
Right.
I will say this, I think there's a consistency of lifestyle that has not changed in the past 50 years there, which is, I don't live to work, I work to live.
Right.
And they're so good about embracing that lifestyle that, yes, of course I got to pay my bills. Yes, of course I want to own a house. But you know what? I want to go for a coffee and sit with my friend too.
Right.
So they get that.
By the water.
Yeah, let's not forget the nice ocean water.
Is this something that's kind of percolated in your head that perhaps maybe one day?
It has.
Okay.
And I won't share too much because I don't want to jinx it. But yeah, it's definitely a consideration as I'm getting older, as I am trying to envision what will the future look like for my kids. You said it briefly in the beginning of this video, AI is changing things by leaps and bounds. The world is becoming smaller, right? So it's like, where do you want to see your family grow and flourish? Does it have to be in Canada? For me, it's starting to feel like no.
Right. And also the nature of your work, like graphics and design, and it's computer work, right?
Yes,
so basically you can do that from anywhere as long as you have Wi-Fi.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right?
Yes. And I have done that. I have gone, usually vacation is vacation. I try not to bring my work with me. Work always comes with me up here.
Right.
But that's a choice. That makes me happy to have the work up here and just ruminate about things.
If your phone is with you, your emails are with you, so your work is
Absolutely, right?
So, you know how I look at it is, I think the newer generation coming out of school, they're more aware of graphics and digital design. People of our generation who are in the corporate world and who might be transitioning into entrepreneurship think of marketing as maybe TV ads and radio ads, right? And they aren't fully aware of how small, medium-sized businesses go about marketing themselves, right? Like maybe they're not fully aware of LinkedIn and how your brand could play a huge impact on LinkedIn or on your website or you know, maybe a Bristol, not a Bristol board. That's a cool thing. What do they call
Billboard.
those? The billboard. Those things you roll up at networking events and they kind of
Pull-up banner.
pull-up banner.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes,
Thank
yes.
you. Pull-up banner.
But billboards are good too.
Billboards are good. If you have the money, why not?
I was just going to say, depends your segment. But
If you could afford that on the Gardner, do it. So I guess the question is, for someone who is coming out of their job, transitioning to entrepreneurship, how, like, when would they call you? Why would they call you? Like, and how does it impact their business?
So it's such a good question because I think branding, first of all, like the definition of branding is it's so much more than your logo, even though I absolutely adore that part of the process of creating this new identity for the company. But it's so much more than that. It's about understanding how are you going to build your company from the ground up and inject yourself into it. So what do I mean? There's your mission statements, there's your vision statements, there's your what's going to be my slogan, what do I represent, how do I inject my values into, there's all these moving parts that people are thinking about that they don't always concisely communicate for their company.
So mission statement is a sentence or two. Would you help them draft that
Yes.
statement?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So one of the things that I do, which I'm not sure that all brand designers do, but I am happy to do this because I feel like it's what makes it such a unique process. It's what makes it a solid process too, so that people know the minute I flick on the lights, I'm ready to do business. I feel sure about what I've done. I have the foundation done. And a lot of brand designers may start from the starting point of tell me what you like, and I'm going to turn that into something visual. But what they have not addressed now is tell me what you represent.
Can we role play this?
Sure.
Okay, I think that would be fun for the audience. Okay,
Yeah.
Let's try that. So I've got my accounting firm.
Okay.
Okay. And I've had my logo for 2 years.
Okay.
Let's just say I want to spice it up a little. Is that a good reason to call you?
Yes, it is. That would be called a
Okay.
refresh.
Refresh. Okay.
Right.
I want to refresh. I don't even know the terms. So I'm learning as I go along. So I want to refresh. I call you up. I go, hey, Marta, I want to refresh, right? And then what would you say to me?
So I would say, great. A couple of questions right off the bat. What led you to this decision? Is it just a personal feeling of, I'm tired of looking at my logo? Or is there something a little deeper that is happening, like I need to update my logo. I am not speaking the language I want to speak to my target audience. It's not resonating with them. I've noticed that people are just kind of dropping off instead of getting more people on my YouTube channel, for instance, or it's not the right demographic. Like I really want to target the such and such demographic, and I just can't seem to be doing that. And I have a feeling I'm not looking attractive to them. And part of not looking attractive is not having the correct identity out there.
Okay.
Right? And so much goes into an identity, which we can unpack too if you want.
Got it. So, okay, that's very fascinating what you said. So let's just say if I am attracting young employees.
Sure.
Okay. But I want to attract entrepreneurs. So what kind of market research have you done to say, okay, if you brand it this way, it will attract the entrepreneur versus someone who's an employee?
Yes. Okay. So to specifically point out things like that, you definitely have to dive in a little more. You do, and there are thankfully so much out there these days that will help you to run some analytics for you.
Okay.
You can literally upload a graphic image, which I would do for you. I would take your existing logo and I would upload it onto a website. And when I upload the logo into their database, let's call it, the app and the software has the know-how to run a scan through the internet and say, who looks like you? And who is offering what you're offering? And what do they look like? And
so
how,
the algorithms are doing the...
Exactly.
Got
so
it.
that's happening. Now, pre-AI, how would I do that? I would do a similar thing where I would obviously still use the internet. I would still do a prompt search of saying, who is your competition? See, again, if you told me this is my geographic region, you know what? Guess what? I'm global. Makes it more challenging, but still, we define what does global really mean for you.
Right.
Those kind of things, and then do a little competitive analysis, right? And just say, look how they're positioned. Look how you're positioned.
Okay.
Look who they're talking to. Look who you're talking to. Look at their colors. Look at their fonts. And then you start to really go into the weeds, like drilling down into almost deconstructing your logo and saying what's working, what's not.
And you get clients who want to copy a competitor because they're successful, and you kind of like, how does that work?
Okay, so I would be lying if I said no. and lying comes back to bite you, right? So I'm not going to lie. Yes, they do. But you know what? I have compassion for them when they're doing that, because they really just want to give you their best idea. And if their best idea is something they've seen, then by all means, I want them to share it with me, because it gives me a window into what they like.
Frame of reference.
A frame of reference.
Right.
It's true that we don't want to, there's a joke, R&D means research and development, or it means rob and duplicate, right?
Nice.
We don't want to do
Never
the
heard of that,
rob and duplicate. Because, there's no uniqueness in there, and there's not really a customness to that. But there is value in knowing what you like and why you feel it represents you, and why that's working for the competition. Like, there's value in understanding all that. So, we definitely get around that by saying, so this is a great starting point for understanding what you like. And now let's see how we can customize something for yourself, right? So we that conversation does happen. Yeah.
Now, sometimes clients have like their way of thinking, right? And it's might be outdated, or it might not be, or it might be a cultural way of looking at things, which might not be right for the Canadian market or the American market, or the demographic that they're changing. Now, these conversations can be difficult to say, listen, your idea sucks, right? Like, you're wasting your money, you're wasting your time. And how, do you have those conversations, or do you just say, you know what, I got to keep the client happy, let me just run with it? Like, how does that work?
So this year, I've been in business for 30 years, and not on my own. So I've been a graphic designer.
For 30 years?
For 30 years.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, 30 years. Okay, wow.
So I'm going to throw a party. You're invited.
Oh, thanks. Free food, I'll go anywhere.
I have a funny party joke for you that has to do with branding. I looked one up just to make everyone laugh. I hope it makes everyone laugh. So the reason why I give you this as a background, like a backstory, 30 years, because in the beginning, yes, I was very cautious in saying to people, no, that is not a good idea. Because you do want to accept the work. You do want to not say no to a client and have not that
and have them go somewhere else, right?
Absolutely, right? That doesn't make you feel successful. That makes you feel like, oh my goodness, I just lost a project. But now that I've been running EllesSeven branding since it's about 15 years, so halfway through my career, I do feel comfortable in guiding people. And I think that is an important thing. That's why they're coming to me, right?
I think 30 years gives you a lot more weight behind what you say, right? As opposed to if you're 3 years into it, you're like, what do you know, right?
Yes. And I think the 3-year, I'm going to call them graphic designers, because there's so many kinds of people who do graphics that are designers. I think they are very talented. Don't get me wrong. There's so much talent out there. It blows my mind. But to your point, the experience is just not there.
Right.
And sort of the design speak if that makes sense to you.
Yes,
We use that a lot internally with my peers that are other design, how we design speak and how we can present our work and validate our work is just not there for someone who's starting out.
Okay. So I've called you, you've helped me with you've refreshed my brand, you've helped me with my mission statement. Now, does our relationship end at that point, or is there more that you can provide after that?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's just the starting point.
Oh, it's the starting point.
Yeah,
okay,
that's the
educate
starting point.
me. All right.
Yeah, because what we're doing now is what's called your brand foundation, your strategy, right?
Okay.
We're just working on the words, if I can call it that. We're working on all the things that you can maybe one day, hopefully you could recite. Because again, these things should be quick, snappy, memorable, right? There's no reason to have a vision statement that will be on your board that is miles and miles down the wall. Nobody will read it. Nobody's going to remember it. And we're also not Nike and we're also not Apple, right? So that's why that's the starting point. It's jotting down all these necessary words that become written in stone, right?
Okay.
They're there to guide us, and if we go off left field, we can go back to our book that says no, that's left field now. We said we wanted to stay in the center of the field or the right of the field, as an example, right? So the next step is to take everything we've collected, all the information that's going on in the client's brain, in your brain from your accounting firm, which includes a lot of things, as we said. And now, how do we visualize that? How do we translate that? I use the word orchestrate because it's like bringing things together. Sometimes the music goes high and sometimes the music goes low,
right? For
obvious reasons, right? So a color might be bright, a color might be subdued.
Okay.
And it all has to do with, again, what are we trying to represent and who we're speaking to, right?
Okay.
That part is definitely by far one of the most fun parts of it for me and you.
Colors are very important?
Absolutely, yeah. Color psychology is just blows your mind what makes people feel good or not good. I'll give you a quick example.
Like red makes you feel romantic and whatever.
Well, it's funny you'd say that because red actually makes you feel rushed.
Red makes you feel rushed.
In the branding world. So here's an example. If you walk into McDonald's, back in the day, especially before they started to do all the really nice cafes, cafe set up, sort of elegant, more colors, if I can call them elegant.
The play place, those days?
Yes.
Okay,
the play place days. Now you can barely find one, right? And you're like, I need to take my kids somewhere.
You can't find them anymore. That's right.
But it's true. You can barely find them. But back in those days, they had the primary colors everywhere, right? They had the red, the yellow, especially red and yellow.
Ronald McDonald was
Ronald McDonald, right? Yeah. Of course, it's their brand colors, but they also did a wide market research, conducted this sort of research where what colors makes you feel most relaxed to sit down and take your time and eat your burger? What color makes you feel like, you know what, I better get on this, eat my burger, get out of here. I got things to do.
Right.
Well, guess what? Primary colors like red, yellow, they make you feel vibrant and alive, but they also make you feel kind of like, oh, I'm not going to stay a while. And that's what McDonald's wanted, right? They want to make sure people come in and they go out.
Right.
We're not a restaurant. We're not here. We're not the keg.
There's no elevator music. Got it.
Right. So, but then they realized, oops, we swung the pendulum a little too far. Now we're not getting people want to come in and have a coffee. They're only going to the coffee shops. So let's try and elevate parts of our brand to incorporate that audience, right?
More of a classier look.
It's definitely more classier. Yeah, it may not, again, it may not be the most classiest thing on earth.
Still McDonald's.
But it definitely has a cafe feel to it now. From the color perspective, that's what we're talking about now.
Right.
There's many other little aspects about it, what they're offering, the product itself, all of that plays a role. But if we're just talking about branding, which we are, the color psychology behind someone as big as McDonald's was very well studied. It's fascinating.
So if we just stay on big companies for a while, Nike, I've been I was a Michael Jordan fan, so Nike's been huge for me. And their logo, their swoosh has never changed.
Never.
It's been the swoosh for I would say 40 years now, right? Walmart recently did a refresh, and they got smashed on social media. Like, everyone smashed them. I think the Walmart logo, whatever, is pretty boring and cheesy to begin with, but I'm not even sure what the refresh did, but it gave them bad publicity. So, where do you think Walmart went wrong? Like, did you take time to study that, or did you just kind of skip over it?
You know what? I was just going to say I may have skipped over that because I think their latest refresh was already a couple of years ago that I saw that I would have followed.
Okay.
The recent one, I don't know what they refreshed. Was it the rays around?
They just made it a little bolder, like it was. I thought it looked the same, quite frankly.
I think that's why I missed it.
Okay, maybe that's why you missed it. Yeah. Okay. Now, why don't you think, in your opinion, obviously you're not in the boardrooms, why don't you think Nike has ever touched their swoosh? It's almost like you can't. It's like sacred, right? Why is that?
Yeah, I think they, so they have a very different dynamic in terms of how they run their business, right?
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of people up at the top that just said, brands don't change. Once you build it, that's it. Build it, they will come. Right? So the marketing strategies have to work. Like if it's not working, it has nothing to do with the Nike swoosh. It's to do with how we are communicating about the Nike swoosh. And there's a lot of truth to that. There is a lot of truth to that. Also because it was a very sort of simple symbol. They saw how it could remain timeless over time. Right?
It is very simple.
And it is very simple. And as you probably know the story, it was done for next to nothing. And it was just a very interesting story. But the point I think that they were trying to make again is that it's how you use your visual tools, and a logo was one of your visual go-to tools in your brand, to promote things. I saw an ad where the swoosh was right under this girl's eye, swooshing up, crossing half her face. And she looked like she had just played 10,000 soccer games. She was muddy. But you could tell like so much heart and soul in this little kid, and the swoosh was right, and it spoke 1,000 words, right?
Right.
Her Nike shoes, I take it, empowered her to play like 10,000 soccer games, and she came out a warrior, just empowered, right?
Right.
So I think, again, companies that are as large as Nike invest a lot of money into making sure whatever they design as an identity will not fail. And that has so much power in the marketing world. Like it has to be surrounded by all these marketing campaigns and deployments, and of course these days there's so much digital going on, whether it's this platform versus that platform, right? So I don't know if that answered your question 100%.
Yeah, no, it does. And quite frankly, how I look at it is that there's no one answer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, true as well.
Because companies evolve, the athletes that they endorse, how they shift from basketball to golf, and they get out of golf because Tiger Woods was huge, and they got out of golf, and now they tried football for a while. Right now, basketball is going through another evolution where it's not as popular as it used to be.
That's true.
And things keep happening. So every company is so different. Because as you were talking, I was thinking Adidas and Reebok are in a very similar situation where they've kind of stayed true to their brand. But
That's
anyways. Right. So coming back to the small and medium-sized company, because I don't have any Nike clients or that big, so just come back.
Me neither. Something's going wrong.
I wish I did. I could retire a lot earlier. But,
yeah, me too.
But Nikes don't want to deal with me for some reason. I guess they have like 37 Manus sitting there already, right? So
they haven't discovered how wonderful you are yet.
They haven't discovered me yet.
They will.
So, by the way, guys, do not fret. In the description, I have Marta's contact information, her website, and her LinkedIn, and all her social media contacts will be down below. So you guys know where to go to refresh those brands. So coming back to this whole thing. So, okay, now the refresh is done. We've got the mission statement. I'm now running my business. Life is good. Now where do you come in? Like, what's the next service you would provide?
So once we've done all that strategy work, we've melded it into a new identity. From there, I actually would develop a brand guide for you so that when you walk away from this whole experience of refreshing your brand, again, because you came to me with a logo. Many people will come as a startup and they have zero. So then we're starting from ground zero, which, by the way, is very exciting because, you're working with fresh blocks. You're not trying to kind of take off some cement from old blocks. But I always say, that's okay. Those building blocks are there. There's value, but we only keep what works. and people have to be comfortable with that. Whatever's not working and it's falling down and broken, we have to toss it aside. It's like construction, right? But after doing that, you're going to need a set of guidelines that say, this is how I use my logo, and this is how I use my typography, and this is how I use my colors. Because you have to. Can you give us an
example? Because to me, this is very foreign.
Okay.
I'm sure for my listeners, it's
also. Sure. So, on my website, there is a brand guide reference. Okay. So that's great that you'll have the link for them. But a brand guide is quite simply a book or a very, let's call it a guidelines, handbook, playbook. There's these kind of words that we're using a lot.
So you send us like a PDF document.
It's a PDF document
that we receive, and it explains the meaning behind the graphic design.
The meaning behind your brand, yeah. And so again, depending how extensive you want to go deep into the brand guide, there's some that I won't even lie to you, they're about 80 pages long.
Okay.
I typically don't do those kind because I'm not working with Nike, but the small to medium-sized business person can usually operate with one that's about 4 to 8 pages long, maybe 10 pages long, because it covers off those main criteria. What are my fonts? What are my colors? How do I use the primary colors versus the secondary colors? This is my logo. You don't use your logo like this, and you make sure you use your logo like that. Here are all my versions of my logos. So it's a little handbook that you could almost tuck under your arm if you were walking down the street going to a meeting, but it's in your pocket, it's digital, and print it out if it makes you happy. And you also want to share it. You want to be very, very sure to share it. It's not like a coveted, it's only mine. It's to be shared with all your marketing partners so that they don't do misnomers, right?
That's my next question. So if I was to design a website now, I would give the website developer this guide. They would know which color 100%. Patterns and all that. Okay.
Yeah. So we may have not explored patterns yet at this point when I'm developing your brand guide, because we've only established the beginning part, which again, we said is all the strategy behind how do we translate strategy into an identity, which typically is your logo and a signature line or a slogan. And then the brand guide is birthed. But as I'm working through the brand guide, many times people say to me, oh my goodness, I love this, but I don't even know where to start. Like, what does a social media template look like for me? What does a e-blast newsletter look like for me? What does that? And the list goes on and on and on and on, right? So then you have to guide them and say, okay, you know what? I think what you need is I'm going to give you a couple of template recommendations. These are your go-to, and then as your business starts to build or change or whatever it may be, then we may need to make adjustments. We may need to add more things to it, but at least you have that starting point. And again, that could be just understanding, do we need to explore textures like we just said? That happens quite often, actually, with some people. So
now, amongst my accounting brethrens, a debate that we usually have is some accountants say niche into industries. Like, I just want to do health, or I just want to do manufacturing or whatever. And their reasoning behind it is that you become very efficient at it.
Sure.
Right? Now, other accountants have this belief, and I don't know where I am right now. I'm kind of in the middle. They have this belief that you should serve all industries, and the reason for that is because you might learn something from a distributor that you can apply to a dentist that you never even thought of, that can make the dentist's operation a lot more efficient, right? Because certain skills or concepts are intertransferable, because business is business at the end of the day, right?
Yes.
So you, after 30 years, have you niched, or are you serving all industries? Like, who's your ideal client?
So I love this discussion, and I have this, I'm not just saying this for the sake of your video, I really mean it. I have this discussion almost every 3 days. It's like every 72 hours I'm talking about this with somebody networking up here, a client, because I don't want to be a hypocrite. I do tell my clients, you need to niche down. You need to make sure we're speaking to this specific audience. If your audience has sort of three tiers to them, okay, how do we still paint them all with a similar brush so that, we don't miss something? Or do we have to have a sub-brand for that audience and a primary brand for this? But then they look at me and they're like, oh, so what's your niche? I said, well, my niche is that I do branding. That's my service is my niche, as opposed to who I'm serving being my niche. Does that make sense? And
So
the reason
if I
why
understand you, you're saying I just do branding. I don't do websites. I don't do this and that and other site. I don't do SEOs. I'm not a jack of all trades.
right.
I am the queen of branding. End of story.
Thanks for noticing I had a crown on my t-shirt. And my logo does have a crown. So thank you for calling me a queen. No, it's, yes. Sorry, I didn't mean to say no. Yes, you are right. So I want people to come to me as a go-to expert for branding. And if they do require those additional marketing tools and those additional legs and arms and, appendages, let's call it, from your core brand, then I have inner circle partners that I work with that they take the lead from me in terms of the design, and then they would execute, for instance, a website. So I'm not a web developer. I don't enjoy it, if I can be that honest about it.
Of course.
But what I do enjoy is seeing how the brand comes to life because it touched the website, right? So again, how did you use the colors, the typography, the shapes, the textures, the logo, all the things.
So you could take a client and basically walk him or her through all the departments of marketing, and your department is graphics. If they want to visit the other departments, you can take them, hold their hand, and say, here's a computer person, here's a website person, here's the SEO, and this and that.
Yes. And I pride myself on building up that network all the time, like keeping very current on who else is doing something different for SEO. Who else says I can do such and such, but interesting, because she's a photographer and she's a photographer, but she branded herself this way. How come? What's so different about her service? So I make the time to do this, to interact, to have networking calls, to check out portfolios, to dig deeper a little bit and to say, you know what, that's not the right fit for that client, but she'll be or he'll be the right fit for that other client, sort of keep that.
Right.
And I think the good thing, if I can make a point of saying this, is that people more and more are expecting small businesses to operate this way, to be very low overhead, if I can call it that. I'm using a bit of accounting speak.
I love it. You talk my language. It's about time.
Low overhead, but you still have very valuable inner circle partners that are they're going to execute the work. You still have to be the project manager. You still have to be client facing. You have to own those roles, but confidently saying, you know what, even though I'm not the website developer, that's going to be 100% delivered the way I delivered the logo and the so-and-so and the so-and-so, right?
Right.
So, and I love the fact that I come from a print background, because I did do almost everything under the sun for graphic design, like everything we talked about in the beginning, the billboards and the pull-up banners. And there's a lot of fun in still doing those. So when it makes sense to how I've developed the brand, I can still touch those points, those touch points. But when it's not of value to the client, or they're not looking for those particular mediums at the time, because again, maybe it's a funding issue, maybe it's just not a reach issue for them, those pieces aren't going to work, then it's no hard sells come from me, that's for sure.
So if someone came to see Marta, do they have to buy the full package, or can they, if they're on a budget, can they pick and choose what they want, like a menu?
Good question. Yes, I do have like a menu. I try to package it up so that they see the value in that all-inclusive price. But there have been many times where they say, you know what, I really want to work with you, but I feel like this price is just a little out of my reach because of such and such. So then what we'll do is we'll go through the items, and here's one great example, the brand guide, what we just talked about. People will kind of raise their eyebrows at that and say, what is that? Just like you did.
Yeah.
Great question. I love it. It's like my favorite question is to be asked about something you don't know, because you get to really explain and give the value where it needs to be. Explain what it is. I visually show one or two. Again, there's some variances to them. And then they say, oh, you know what? I don't know if I really need that right now. So we have to have those conversations, and I have to help them make the decision, yes or no. It's not my money, so inevitably they have to decide, but I have to at least feel like when I walk away, I gave everything its value, and then we can have sort of like the final conversation of saying, okay, so what is not fitting in your budget, and what do we do about that, right? And sometimes we can do it in stages too.
Right. So since we're talking about new entrepreneurs coming, starting their business, wanting to get their emblem, their graphics, their image, their persona out there, one thing is for them now, for every business, the biggest concern is how will I grow my business? And now I've been 2 years into my practice since I left the corporate world, and I'm still trying to figure out what are the best channels for me to grow my business. So you having a 15-year head start, how do you market yourself? Like, what's your go-to channel?
Oh, you know what? I have to be honest and say that I'm not the greatest example
Oh no.
of how to market yourself because of focusing so much on building my business. I'm almost going to say not online. Like, I really believe in the organic growth of networking. Which I don't think, again, I love it. I think
Like
it still
through trade
works.
shows? Are you into trade shows?
And even just networking groups,
Okay.
right? And sort of building up your personality and your ability to showcase yourself, right? Just meeting people.
So I want to share a quick pet peeve of mine, and on LinkedIn, a lot of people use the word community, right? We're a LinkedIn community because we're all from the similar backgrounds. We're all professionals and we're all expertise in something, one thing or another, right? And the way how I envision community is that when you put out a post or if you put something out there, we should all, whether you like it or not, we should put a comment or something and saying, I agree or I disagree or this is garbage or whatever. And and I think it's important. It creates debate. It creates the exchange of ideas.
True.
And what I find with society is, so for example, I'll put up a post, then I look at my analytics, and there's like 700 impressions. I mean, 700 people have seen this post,
Right.
but it has like 12 likes and 3 comments, right? Which is fine. I'm not a celebrity, I get it. But the thing is this, if those entrepreneurs were putting comments or whatever, they would also get exposure, right? Because I deliberately go out and I put comments because you never know who will see my comment or who will see my like, right? And there are nosy people who actually check who liked.
Yes.
Right? And
This is
there are
true.
people who do that. I know
This
that
is true.
because my son does that on Instagram. He'll say who's liking, right? So, and you just never know. You might need a marketing person or a fractional whatever, and you say, oh, this person, I need someone like that. Like, let me contact them, right? Or connect with them. But I think we're so lazy, and the whole branding comes into play too. I think people are so lazy or scared of the unknown that they kind of shy away from it. Like, so I'm even just venting here. I guess I'm not really asking a question. I'm just venting. Is that I think we should be more supportive on social media. Like, for instance, when you put out a post saying, hey, this realtor puts out a post saying, look, you helped me brand this is great. I think it's fantastic. I think more of us should do that, right? Not just promote ourselves, but this person did this for my business or for me personally, and I just want to tell the world.
Yes.
Right? And we don't have that mindset as a society.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think your vent is valid. It's a valid vent. Does that make you feel better?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for
Because I
the
feel like
affirmation.
that's one of the reasons why my social footprint is so low. It's because I feel like, what's the reward after I put that out there? Am I going to get comments and feedback? And is it just me self-promoting? And, does it fall on deaf ears, right? So, and a lot of that is not true. There will be some benefit from it, absolutely. But it goes back to the following, how much have you built up on your following? And do you feel like you're a part of a community that is commenting back, right? So
Right.
It's not an easy fix, maybe, but I think it definitely can evolve depending on who your network tends to be and how they reshare your posts and whatnot.
I also think it's a North American mindset.
It might be. I've heard some other people say that who are not culturally from here. They just ended up here, immigrating here and whatnot. I have close friends who work in different sectors, and they say that this is so Canadian.
It's a Canadian American thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, immigrants will come here and say, I don't know who my neighbor is.
Right, and they're
Right?
so shocked by
Because
that.
we live in our little beehives, and and that's it, exactly. It's interesting. I just want to go back to the whole rebranding. This is so educational for me. So because I'm learning,
glad.
I'm assuming other people are learning as well, because this isn't common knowledge. So thanks for sharing. So the question I have in my mind is, and if it's a dumb question, let me know. What's the difference between a rebrand and a refresh, or is it just the same thing?
Oh, it's an excellent question. It's not. It's a very. We probably should have started there. So my apologies. I should have guided you. And when I say I should have guided you, one of the key things I ask my clients is, you've got to name 3 power words that succinctly describe your company. So you can challenge 3 power words, and that is your brand word.
So give me an example for an accounting firm.
Okay, so can I give you my example?
Yeah.
And then I can tackle yours with you. How about we role play reverse?
Okay, so what do I do?
For instance, I'm going to say to you, okay, Manu, when you come to work with me, the reason why you're going to work with me is because I am creative, I am process driven, and I'm going to guide you. So process driven is just to give you more, but process is really the word, right? If you don't want to work with a designer who has lots of process and does things a certain way to achieve the end goal, I might not be your gal. I'm just telling you straight up. You want people who just kind of shoot from the hip and they love hearing that you like circles and squares and red and yellow. Go running. That's fine, right? They're going to give you your end result. But if you want someone who's going to be a little more strategic and who's going to be methodical and who's going to, like I said, guide you from step to step and make you understand why we have to slow down and do this, but let's hurry up and do that, right? So that's part, and of course the creativity I think it's key. If you're not a creative person and you're working with branding, you're not going to feel like you can come up with fresh ideas all the time. So I'm going to role reversal for you and say, knowing what you know about your company and who you are, you're trying to inject yourself into your company. What would be one potential power word you could use to describe who Manu is as an accountant?
So it's interesting. I never thought of it. I don't want to say, so accountants, so in school we were told good accountants are focused on attention to detail and process driven, because that's what, tax and accounting is. Organized. So those are typical words that we use to describe accountants. I am not the typical accountant.
I would agree with you. So I was going to challenge you on that because I know you now. I know your personality.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes us so unique. We've got to bring ourselves into our company. So a lot of designers they're probably cringing hearing me say process. What is wrong with this girl? Why? But that's who I am. I'm a very organized, systematic designer. Not all designers are.
Right.
So instead of shying away from that, I've made that one of my superpowers, if I can call it that.
Got it.
Right? So a superpower for you, for sure, is not because you're going to do undetailed work. I know you would deliver a good product, but you're just a little bit easier to talk to, right? So you're a very...
Tell that to my wife.
Friendly... but you're very friendly, and the way you exchange information is very easy. The channel is open all the time, right? So I'm describing to you just how I feel as a receiver of your information, because you are very thoughtful and generous in passing out information, like accounting information all the time.
Yeah.
That for sure has to be one of your core power words.
Generosity?
Yeah. And just that flow of how you share your knowledge. Not all accountants do. I think you know that.
Well, it's funny because I think accountants we have some mental issues. I'm not being facetious, or I truly, and I would openly say this on social media, and I am saying it on social media. I think a normal person would not go into accounting because you have to be a sucker for punishment. And the reason why I left the corporate world is because I was doing quite well. I was head of finance. Pay was great. Life was great. And I took a huge pay cut to leave all that and start from ground zero, right? But the reason why I left is because I realized we're just suckers for punishment. And accountants, as a fraternity, we don't value our time.
Yes, sure.
Right? That's why a lot of accountants who do end up closing their shop, it's because of burnout.
Yes.
Right? And we also, accountants, we don't like to share ideas, to your point. We have this, a friend of mine uses the word scarcity. We have the scarcity mindset.
Scarcity mentality, for sure. It's
but
big.
we don't. There's a shortage of accountants. Actually, we had a video.
You did. I saw that video.
There's a shortage of accountants. And hear this stat, which I didn't know at that time, but I know now. In the next 10 years, 75% of all accountants will retire.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
That blew me away.
That's
right?
a big, important fact to know. Yeah.
And then I asked my wife, because she works for one of the large global firms, accounting firms, I said, do you guys talk about this? And she thought about it. She goes, well, in my department, she goes, I'm the youngest one. So yeah, in 10 years, I'll be the only one left.
Right.
For my current team, because they'll all be retired.
Yes.
And that blew me away, right? Because she's like a team of 8 or 9 people.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, you're the youngest one out of 8 or 9. Right?
Yeah.
So, I've kind of lost my track of where I was going.
Yeah, that's part of my fault, because I said, let's do role reversal.
Role reversal, and I kind of got lost in my world.
And you said, so generosity? I said, absolutely. Generosity is more than just being generous with money, right? It's generous with your information. It's generous with the way you want to do your business.
But that's my way of marketing, right? Because I figure if I can give you something, you'll realize that
the value.
I can add some value to your life, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if I hoard it, you don't know what value I could bring to your life.
That's right. And in the end, you want people who want to work with you because you want to work with them. And it's got to be reciprocal. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is why I think I'm not a normal accountant, right? Because I'm not saying I'm better.
No,
because some of these accountants are super successful.
They're
to
very
your point,
successful, right? Yeah, it's not better or worse. It's different, and I think we all have to define what's our differentiator, right?
Yeah.
What is that unique selling?
And I'll share a secret with you. In the corporate world, I never had lunch with the accountants. They didn't want to talk to me. I used to always have lunch with the sales guys and the operations people
because they felt comfortable with you,
right? The accountants were like, this guy's weird, and I thought they were weird. It was just such a weird dynamic, right? So anyways, so I guess sure, generosity. I do like to give and teach.
Yes, you
I think teaching more than generosity.
Yes, teaching is an excellent word for you.
I think teaching's the word, not generosity.
Yeah, sure.
So teaching.
But from the teaching, your generous information is birthed. Do you see where you go?
It's a byproduct.
This is kind of a bit of a branding exercise right here, where sometimes you have to do this talking through.
It's like therapy.
Branding therapy.
Branding therapy. Okay. So teaching / generosity.
Yeah.
Now I know I'm an extrovert compared to most accountants, but is that like a superpower?
It can be. Absolutely, it can be. I think it depends on if you're wanting to highlight that as a superpower. You want to make sure that it embodies like the value system you want to display at your accounting firm, right? To say we are extrovert, or we are. For me, when I hear you say extrovert, though, I take it as you're just a really friendly person, so you're very approachable. Sometimes an extrovert makes people go, oh, wow, they're going to overshare, right? Yeah, they're going to like overshare, and they're going to be in your face all the time. That's not you.
Okay.
But again, we have to then describe our words by what we're doing, right? We have to put power behind them and put action behind them. So some words are easier to put out there and say, oh, she says she's creative. Okay, I get that. You get it, but you still want to see it in action, right? So
now in your world, creative, wouldn't that just be like a buzzword? Like for me being,
it is
attention to detail.
It is, but that's what makes it interesting to talk about, because then like sort of even the birth of my name, like what does EllesSeven mean? Well, I could tell you the whole story to that.
Tell me.
Are you sure?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Sure.
I'll make it short. I'll make it concise. Yeah. So when I went through this process for myself, because part of branding is also being able to name a company, and which I can help do as well.
Wait, sorry, you can help name a company?
Yes, I can help that from that perspective, because startups usually come to me saying, you know what, I'm not even sure about the name. I'm not sure if, I feel like I like this word, or I'm not even sure if I know the collection of words. Like, it's just so much, so overwhelming. So we go through that exercise too. And
you didn't mention that in the beginning.
I didn't. There's so much to the process.
Right.
So, and I'm
which is why someone's got to book a call with you.
I was just going to say, I'm letting you guide me. And now I feel like sometimes I have to step backwards to make something make sense. And I haven't answered your question on rebrand versus refresh. Which
it's okay. This is fun too.
I will. Yeah. So EllesSeven birthed from the fact that the word Elle, which is E-L-L-E, and which everybody will see when they see it written down.
It's a French name for women.
It's a French name for women, but it actually, and of course, I am at the helm of my company.
It's not a French name, it's a pronoun.
It's a pronoun. That's right. It means she, right?
Right.
It's she in French. And it also means guiding light.
In which language?
In just the description of the word El. So
is it in the biblical?
Exactly. Like if you look it up and you just say, no, El is translated into such and such. You can look people's names up and say, that means big warrior or whatever, so El itself.
In Portuguese or Latin?
No, if you look it up, it comes from a Latin descent, I believe. But, again, just very clearly says it means light, it means guide, it's sort of the guiding light. I kind of put it together. And because it was one of my power words, my brand words, I thought, how perfect is this? I love that it was El. I am bilingual, so I wanted to kind of put that hidden in there that, I can speak French too. And then 7 is the number 7, and I've spelt it out because the 7 is the number of harmony, and it's the number of completion. And so that is very important for me to display.
Sorry, what do you mean by completion?
So completion meaning when something is finished.
Yeah.
It would have been finished, for instance, the world was created in 7 days. It was finished on the 7th day, right?
Okay.
The colors of the rainbow, there are 7. Days of the week, there are 7. There's many things in the world, there's 7, and it's not.
In Hinduism, 7 also has a lot of relevance.
Does it?
Yes.
You see?
The flute has 7 places for your fingers.
There's so many things. I once did a presentation all about the number 7.
7 days and so on and so forth.
There's just so much power in the number 7. Yeah. And again, not to get religious, but there's definitely lots of originates from that source.
The 7 heavens and all that.
Absolutely, right? So I took the L and the 7, I put it together, and I was like, now that's a unique name. That has a unique story. That symbolizes all the things I want people to feel when they work with me. The being a guide, the being all about harmony. When you work with me, that you shouldn't feel this, right? We should feel like it's flowing. And you are going to get a completed project. Like, we will get to completion.
That's so deep.
Yes, it is. It is.
My business is like chandelier. It took me like 5 seconds.
But this is why I love branding, right? Because you can make it as deep as you want, as deep as you feel deemed necessary. And I want people to be inspired by what I went through to name my company. And it didn't happen overnight.
Right.
It took me a month. It took me a month to ruminate and try this and try that. And then you go to the next stage, which of course is, as we said, take strategy things and translate them into visual things and, shapes, and send them out and have little focus groups with people that you trust. And they write you back saying, are you kidding? This doesn't even look like something you would do. That's something you would do, right? So you have to really explore what happens. But that's kind of the story behind EllesSeven.
And then the name of your company is also a great icebreaker.
It is. Oh my gosh, right? I'm so glad you said that. So I use it all the time. And every time I talk about it, I kid you not, I say it differently. And I'm not sure that that's a bad thing. Like, it's not a good thing. It's just because
depending on where you are, your mindset, right? It's your mindset.
Right now, this is very easy. We're having a great conversation. So I told it to you a little differently, right?
Right.
Of course, in a more of a profestional environment.
I also threw in my 2 cents as well, which I probably threw you off your word tracks, but yeah.
Saying it was way too deep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's so important to have icebreakers, and sometimes your company name or your slogan is the perfect place to start to break the ice and to get people interested in learning more about you.
Now let's come back to my question.
Yes.
Rebrand versus refresh.
Yes, promise.
Tell me that.
Targeted.
Because to me it's the same thing, quite frankly.
And it's so not. Okay, so a refresh is, you just came to me, like you said, and you said, I need to switch up my logo a little. I needed to tweak it. I need to make it a little different. Let's say use those words. That's refreshing. But now you come to me and said, you know what? Because of AI, I have to offer a completely different service now in accounting. I'm really excited about it. I don't want people to feel like I've abandoned my practice. No, I'm adding products. So I need to rebrand myself. I need them to see me as having a brand new face or a brand new product, a brand new something. So then there's an opportunity to do away a lot of the old and have something fresh and brand new. Refresh, you keep what's working. You don't discard everything.
Refresh, you keep what's working.
And I'll give you a good example. I just worked with...
rebrand is like starting a new company.
It's like starting a new company. It's like saying, we don't need what's here anymore. That's become old. We're going to put it on the shelf. We value it like the library. You know, don't throw away the book, but you're just putting it far enough you're not going to reach for the book. You're going to go to a new book now and make a new cover and new everything.
Got it.
It's like a new chapter in your company's life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. So when would an entrepreneur know whether they want to refresh or rebrand? Like what has to happen?
Yeah, similar.
For that fork.
Similar to the example I said. I don't know if there's a better one that I think about.
So maybe I missed the example.
It was if you added a product or a service, something completely new.
Like I'm adding products and services, for instance, but I'm not going to rebrand.
You may have to, because maybe you're speaking to a brand new audience and they're not going to connect with how you're projecting yourself on this old brand with your old services.
Interesting.
Right? Now they're coming to you saying, what? I didn't know that Manu was like this kind of accountant who offered this service as well, offered this product as well. And wow, look at him using this technology. He's talking to me, let's say 18 to 35-year-olds. I'm just picking on them, right? And they are the new innovative people there are Silicon Valley, let's call them, right? You're appealing to maybe the tech world. So there is an opportunity there to understand, is what I'm using now going to help me or hurt me as how I'm being perceived now, right? My image, my identity.
Or another way, since I'm not a product or a subject matter expert, I guess it'd be better for me to just reach out to you and say, Marta, this is what I'm doing. Do I refresh or rebrand?
Right.
And you tell me what I need
Exactly. And I guide you in saying, this is, from my experience, this is what I would recommend you do. And we can further dive in. We can further say, okay, now let's take a look at the pros and cons to this versus that. There is data that you can collect on these type of things as well. I sometimes shy away from leaning just on the data because it is such an emotional thing.
It's personal.
It's
right?
so personal.
Yeah.
And I want to say that about branding, that it is so personal, that it is about evoking emotions in people. Like you want people to look at your company and say, I want to work with them. I like the vibe. I like the
vibe. I like that word, vibe.
Yeah, I think it's an important word. That's why I think that's why some of the big companies have existed for so long, because people like their vibe. They like what they're outputting for you to receive and input into your brain, your body, whatever it may be.
Right. So you haven't been salesy, which is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
So now I want you to be salesy. All right. So put on your salesperson hat on and tell me why someone should work with you versus someone else.
I think I'm just so nice.
You are, right? That's why I invited you.
Sorry, I think I just covered my mic.
Losers not invited.
I think it's because after 30 years of doing graphic design work and again, niching down into branding, I so love the process still. I so love the outcome of what it is to help somebody create their identity from scratch. And because I don't skip steps, I don't just jump ahead. Absolutely, there are times where I've had to say, this is what we can do based on the package, based on the budget. We talked about that earlier in the video. But I don't skip steps on purpose. I'm not going to shortchange you on what you're going to get in the end. And I get so involved that sometimes you'll end up getting more versions of a logo to look at. You'll get more advice than you thought you were going to get, So those kind of things where I really feel that if you're not an experienced brand designer, you're going to come out more, it's going to be more of a transaction, right? I told you I liked circles and squares and I wanted red, not yellow. And so here's a word to use, and then you got what you put in. It's almost like you were working with a data inputting system. No, we had conversations about it. You filled in my questionnaires, my discovery questionnaires. I even have workshops that I do one-on-one. There's so much to the process that happens fairly quickly too, and people are amazed at that. Like, it doesn't take a year to get it done, right? It happens in a matter of a couple of weeks to get things started, and then another couple of weeks, and things start to birth, and then before we know it, a couple of weeks later, things are done. Like, it's just the process. I feel from the feedback people have given me is seamless. It's pretty smooth, and I try to stand behind what I say EllesSeven is going to be, right? So
it's fantastic. Great. So one last question. I always give in every video that I do, I'm sure you've seen this, I always give a little bit about myself, right? Of who I am as a person, my thoughts, my opinions. And pre-COVID, I never did this because I was told not to, right? You don't talk about politics or religion or anything, right? So during COVID, I had this epiphany, and now I don't care as much. So I just share who I am, and I am who I am, right? You can't change that. So I guess don't be as explicit as I am when I talk about myself, but tell us something that's unique about you, or something that makes you slightly different from the rest of us, I guess.
Okay, I guess I'll share that I used to be a Latin salsa dancer.
Professional?
Not professional, just for fun, but I was heavily into it. It became sort of my outlet for socializing, for exercise, for just, I was dancing all the time. I started getting hip problems. I was like, oh my goodness, this hurts.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I was that intensely into it.
So salsa dancing will lead to hip problems?
I mean, it can if you have some sort of physical issues already in your body.
Or was it the heels?
Right?
Was it the heels?
Yeah, you're always wearing heels because you have to be able to spin, and it's the amount of dancing you do at one stint too. You'll dance for 2-3 hours at a time, right? Like,
wow.
And you won't even notice the time has gone by. Like, the DJ is playing song after song after song, and so in my previous life, before kids and whatnot, that's where I met my husband. Through dancing.
Salsa.
Yeah, we became friends first in this environment, which always felt like a really safe, good, clean, fun place, if I can call it that.
Right.
So that was great. I would go with friends, and he might go with friends, and before you know it, everyone's dancing with each other, and it just almost felt like, I don't know, high school dance again. It was
right.
Everyone's in there not doing anything bad. You're just having fun. Right?
So it was a coincidence that you guys partnered.
It was. I think I just say to him all the time, aren't you so lucky that you met me there?
That's right. It's funny because my brother met his wife at a yoga studio.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
And I'm like, I'm sure your mat was right behind her mat because it was a coincidence, right?
Yeah, well, it's nice when your hobbies can lead to something more, right? Even though a hobby is important for you to to have it for yourself, but it is nice when the silver lining is something more comes of it into your life. So
okay, interesting, fascinating. And your kids do this as well?
They do it for fun. We tend to do little home dance parties on special occasions, birthdays, anniversaries, like just Mother's Day, Father's Day.
So I don't know if you know this or not, but on YouTube there's a thing called Just Dance, and there's a bunch of songs.
Yes.
And then on your TV it will show those steps, and you guys do that stuff?
Well, my kids just got that Nintendo Switch game at Christmas from a friend, and they love it. They took a break because they got sick and they kind of have forgotten about it, so I have to remind them, but they absolutely love it. They played it for 1 hour.
YouTube is free.
Oh, awesome.
I go on YouTube and you type in, not me and my kids, but they go Just Dance, Latin, salsa, hip-hop, whatever.
Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't realize they posted full songs. I thought it was just excerpts.
Full songs.
Okay.
Like full 5-6 minute songs, and then they go at it. They made me do it. I did 2 or 3 songs. And I'm like,
done. I know. It's excellent exercise.
I was sweating.
It really
like,
is.
Oh my God.
Yes.
It's embarrassing.
It's good for a creative mind because sometimes you live inside your mind a lot. The ideas are always brewing and ruminating, right? When you go out and you do something active, which I'd like to be active to the best of my ability, it really helps to kind of
there you go,
get
guys.
those ideas out.
Get your branding done and learn some salsa moves while you're at it.
If you can, I mean, that's funny. I wanted to leave your viewers with a funny joke about branding.
Please, I love jokes.
I thought it would be fun too. So let's see if you know the answer. I don't expect you to, Manu. It's not that I don't have expectations of you, but it is about branding.
No one has expectations.
Oh, come on. Why did the script font get invited to all the parties?
The script font, like Times New Roman, Arial, that's a script font?
This is where I thought we might have a little discrepancy. So a script font is a font that typically looks more cursive in writing. If that
Script font, okay.
script font. So it's almost like someone's handwriting. And there's many versions of a script font these days.
Okay.
So why did the script font, who's sort of, flowing,
Cursive writing,
right,
get invited
to all the parties?
Because he was flowing to the groove.
Very good answer. It's similar because it was connected to everyone.
It was connected. Okay, interesting.
Ba-dum-bum.
Hilarious. We have to laugh.
We have to, right? We have to, please. You make me feel...
That's amazing. Now I gotta ask you a question. Now your name, is it Marta with a hard T or Marta? Like,
it's with a hard T, yes.
Hard T, okay.
Yeah, in Portuguese you say Marta. So the T
it is,
pronounced,
yeah. The Italians do the same thing.
Exactly,
Marta,
but most people, they go over Marta, and that's kind of happens.
They anglicize it.
Yes, but thank you for asking.
Bastardize it. So Marta, I'll call you Marta from now on.
Oh, thank you.
So Marta Andrade.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
We are good friends now.
Awesome. So listen, it was a pleasure.
It was
Thank
a pleasure.
you. And hopefully we can do this again in the near future.
I'd love to. Thank you for inviting me, Manu.
And
Thanks
guys,
so much.
remember, it all starts with a simple conversation.